We had a great mega leadership camp down in Austin. So they started this last year. So this is only the second time that we have had a leadership camp for Keller Williams. In the past, it's always been attached to Mega Agent Camp. And starting last year, they decided to make it its own event. Since, we were really focused on you guys when we're at Mega Agent Camp. And honestly, the schedule is always so crazy and so hectic. So this is just a great opportunity for us as leaders at Keller Williams to be able to get into a room together and to grow, to hear from Gary Keller on leadership, Mark King. It was awesome and excellent, as this stuff always is. So I might or might not be a little tired today. My eyes might or might not be a little puffy, but it's all good. We are happy to be back. I want to thank Daniel and Kathy and Troy and Marnie. I think it was like a whole team of people, whether they were turning the huddle on or giving announcements or speaking, that made the world go round. So thank you to all of you for helping and stepping up for that. So I have no doubt you guys were in great hands the last couple of days. And we are continuing with The Power of One More by Ed Milet. And I want everybody right now, if you have a piece of paper and a pen, I want you to just jot down a couple goals that you have for this year. So I would encourage you to have one of them be your production goals. That could be a unit goal, a GCI goal, a listings taken goal. It could be also maybe put a personal goal that you have. And just jot it down just so that's right in front of your face. Okay, so here's the reality. Not all of us on this call are going to hit our goals. What? I know, very depressing. All of us will hit our standards. So not all of us will hit our goals, and we will all hit our standards. So the reason that there is a discrepancy oftentimes between our goals and our results is because we don't have a high enough standard. So what I mean by that, if you think about a coin, so goals and standards are really two sides of the same coin. Okay, they're linked together. You cannot separate the two. You cannot have goals without standards. And standards are going to create goals. But at the end of the day, oftentimes we focus on goals, right? Which is that aspirational desire. And it's important. We will always continue to set goals and to talk about them. And we do not rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our standards. And if there is a gap between where we're at and where our goal is, we need to elevate our standard. So think of a standard as a benchmark for performance, right? It's really what you are willing to tolerate is your standard, okay? As parents, right, we can think about with our kids. What is the standard, right, for how they behave at the dinner table, right? What is the standard for grades? What is it, right? And kids truly, they will rise to your expectation to the level of your standard. I was actually chatting, I can't remember who I was chatting with this week, and I said, my parenting philosophy is never, well, they're going to do it anyway, so I'm just going to be okay with it. Right? Well, they're just going to do drugs, so I might as well just be okay with it. I'm using an extreme example, right? Why not? Because I'm going to give a standard in my house, right? Will they always rise to my standards? No, right? But an elevated standard will create different behavior. Okay, so we should be constantly looking at what are our standards, reviewing them, and working to elevate those. So think about it this way. If you're willing to tolerate something, then that is what you are going to get. Right? So are you okay with the amount of money you're making? Maybe the goal is higher, but you'll tolerate what you're making. You're very, very likely to continue making than what you're making, right? You'd like to sell more homes, but really you'll tolerate that, right? You'd like to increase the level of service that you give to your clients or that your team gives to your clients, but you're willing to tolerate where you're at now. That's really where you're going to hit every single time. Sometimes we'll blow past a standard because because the market pushes us past a standard, right? That happened honestly over the last couple of years, right? That there were increases in businesses that weren't because of increases of standards. But what'll happen is you're not going to stay at that forever, right? You're going to fall back down to that standard. So if we don't clearly establish what our standards are and define them, other people will define them for us, right? Other people will define them for us. So we always want to make our standards consistent with our self-worth, right? So we need to have standards in our business, right? I have standards around appointments that I go on for recruiting, around number of people that I hire for the market center, right? And guess what? It doesn't matter. You guys know how competitive I am with Southlake, right? And it's a fun, friendly competition, right? But here's the deal. It doesn't make me feel better if they have a low month, if I just beat them, but I don't hit my standard, right? Because my standard is internal regardless of anybody else around me, right? So we need to have standards in our businesses. What's your standard for lead generation? What's your standard for how you communicate with your database? What is your standard, right, for the calls that you make? What is your standard for service? What is your standard in your relationships as a parent? What is your standard with your health, right? What is your standards? Okay, so I want to give you, let's see here, 9 things, but they're going to go super fast. Okay, I want to give you 9 things in relation to elevating our standards. So number 1, make sure that we always understand our why. Understand your why. Make sure that your elevated standard is in relation to your why, right? More is not always more. More is not always better, right? Make sure that the goal is attached to the why, and then you're willing to commit to the standard that it's going to take to get there. So there needs to be a why behind it. It's not just for doing sake. Number 2, break down a higher standard into detailed and achievable steps, right? So be intentional, be specific. Be intentional and be specific. Number 3, be honest with yourself, right? Sometimes we're going to increase our standards incrementally, right? We're not going to go from, I haven't worked out in 3 years to I'm going to work out 7 days a week for an hour and a half. And that becomes our standard. That's not telling you what you can and can't do, but let's be real. That's probably not being honest with ourselves, right? About a standard that we're going to uphold for a long time, right? So let's be honest with ourselves and be willing to increase that incrementally. Number 4, get help in areas that you're weak, right? Get help in areas that you're weak. When you hang out with high standard people, your standards will go up, right? If you want to eat healthy, hang out with people who eat healthy, right? You want to be a lead generator? Hang out with people that are lead generators. Number 5, use technology to set and maintain your new standards. So the specific example he gives in this is film a video of yourself talking about your goals and your standards at a time that you are well rested, full of energy, full of confidence, and then actually use that as a way to play it back to you to remind yourself who you are. So you actually get your own little pep talk, motivational speech straight from your own lips, right? Reminding you about your standards. You are actually then watching the person that you want to be. Number 6, give dedicated time to considering the relationship between your goals and your standards. Okay, what'll happen is when our standard is not adequately high enough to meet our goal, we get discouraged, right? Because we're then constantly not hitting what we want to hit and becomes discouraging, right? So if that's happening, we need to really consider what are the standards that need to increase so that I'm not constantly missing the mark, right? And then sometimes we may actually have too low a standards and we're getting bored, right? And we need to elevate those because we're not challenged enough. All right, number 7, this is a killer. Forget perfection. Just stop it. It's actually the lowest standards you can have because you will never hit it. So that is not the standard. Perfection is never the standard. It's not the goal, right? That is an absolutely unattainable unrealistic, will never happen. Just stop it, right? Just stop it. So forget perfection. Number 8, don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. I mean, some of you are not going to think about this at all ever again. All right. The other half of you are going to get like in the weeds around it. So think about it again, put some time and attention to it, and don't overthink it. Okay. Should be simple. Create simple standards that you know that you have to hit. And then number 9, set standards to please yourself. And what I mean by that is ultimately at the end of the day, if you are a person with high standards, it will not matter who your boss is, who your coach is, right? It will not matter because you are going to compete with you. It won't matter if the competition is good or the competition is poor. At the end of the day, you are going to have high standards because you are setting them internally because it matches who you are and who you desire to become. Okay. So setting higher standards in your life is not easy, but consider the alternative. If you aim low, set unworthy goals, and create uninspired standards, you'll end up living a life far below what you're capable of and far below what you deserve. I'm going to read that to you one more time. Setting standards in your life is not easy, but consider the alternative. If you aim low, set unworthy goals, and create uninspired standards, you'll end up living a life far below what you're capable of and far below what you deserve. So let's be a market center of agents that elevate our standards in our business, that elevate our standards in how we treat one another around here, elevate our standards of culture, elevate our home life, our relationships, our parenting, our health. And let's encourage you just to be a person of high standards and constantly evaluate.